So I think Kong would personally be the stronger of the two if those numbers are true. But there are leaks that say Godzilla and Kong are equal in strength. I think they're intentionally making Kong equal to Godzilla. He would be insanely OP. Logically, Kong would be stronger if we were to go by those numbers, but in actuality, Kong and Godzilla will be equal in strength.
Bam! Fuck him up, Kong!
So I think Kong would personally be the stronger of the two. I think they're intentionally making Kong equal to Godzilla. He would be insanely OP. Logically, Kong would be stronger if we were to go by those numbers, but in actuality, Kong and Godzilla would be equal in strength. Bam! Fuck him up, Kong! Kong would personally be the stronger of the two. Kong would personally be the stronger of the two. Kong would personally be the stronger of the two. Kong would personally be the stronger of the two. Kong would personally be the stronger of the two.
You serious?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Vegan here, and today we're gonna be talking about another King Kong 9100 video. As soon as this horrendous video was released, I have been eager to take it down, and of course, your boy gets mentioned in it, so of course I had to talk about it. He mentioned me. Some people have talked to me about my last video on him. First of all, he admitted to me that his last video was trash, so that's a W for us boys, which it was if you watched my video. And he's also stated in the past in other videos that Kong would destroy Godzilla. Some people say, oh well, he didn't say that Kong would win 100% of the time. Well, he made videos in the past titled How Kong Can Destroy Godzilla. So he clearly thinks that Kong could beat Godzilla more than 50% of the time, which is wrong. And today I'm gonna prove it. Now, let's just take a look at this. Oh my god. This is a goddamn hour-long video. Jesus. Alright. Mr. 19100, I knew I shit on your video pretty bad last time, but I didn't think you'd get this defensive about it. This is partially why it took me so long to respond to this video. I'm not gonna keep you guys here for an Avengers Endgame Snyder Cut long ass video. So I'm just gonna point out just the important things he mentioned, because once you debunk certain things, then his entire argument just falls apart. Alright, so let's get started with his really main argument in his invalid argument section. He doesn't believe the MonsterVerse has power scaling, or he doesn't believe in power scaling, but he completely gets the idea of power scaling wrong in his video. So I guess I'm here to play teacher and teach everybody what power scaling is. Now, if you've already heard all this, if you know all the terms like power scaling, destructive capacity, attack potency, then you can skip this part. I have timestamps in the description. You can skip to the main debunk. But basically, what is power scaling? Well, power scaling is the method of determining a character's power through comparing them to other characters in their series. So this is the one part he got right. I'm pretty sure he used the term power scaling and thought it was attack potency, but basically that whole Mothra versus Godzilla versus Ghidorah explanation, that's power scaling. So he doesn't even believe in power scaling, but he doesn't even know what it is. So, but it's the basic idea of, if Iron Man can beat Captain America, but then Thanos beats up Iron Man, you can therefore put together that Thanos would beat Captain America. That's power scaling. Comparing characters to each other in one series. Now, the main problem people run into and don't tend to accept, which is most of King Kong 9100's arguments, is attack potency. Now, attack potency is the term used to determine the amount of damage a character can produce. So let's say characters in fiction. So in fiction, there's characters like Superman, Thor, Hulk, that have feats of destroying planets in their series. Once you see Superman punch a planet apart, you can therefore go, alright, how much energy does that take to do in real life? And you would apply that amount of force that Superman's punch produced to him. So therefore, if Superman's able to casually punch a planet apart, or Thor, or Hulk, whatever, if they're able to produce enough energy with their punch to destroy the planet, and then they go and Superman punch like Darkseid or Shazam, therefore Darkseid should scale to Superman. If Superman can punch Darkseid and Darkseid barely moves, but then Superman punches a planet apart, then therefore Darkseid can endure enough power to destroy the planet. Especially if Superman's using more of his power to hurt Darkseid than the planet. That's just how attack potency works. And the reason most people argue against attack potency is because of this next section that I'm going to explain right here. Destructive capacity, or area of effect. Now basically, destructive capacity it basically means a character with a certain degree of attack potency does not necessarily need to cause destructive feats on that level, but can cause damage to characters that can withstand such forces. So basically, just because Superman punches Darkseid doesn't mean the entire city has to be leveled or the entire continent has to be leveled. Why? Because the writers of the comic that they're writing don't really want to destroy the planet at that time. If they establish Superman as some planet buster in one comic, but then they're like, alright, if Superman can do that, wouldn't every time Superman fights, it would destroy the planet because we established that he's that strong in another comic? And they're like, oh, well, the writers are like, well, that would interfere with our stories because we don't want to destroy the planet. That would mess up a lot of plot lines that we have for the fight. So what they do as writers is they ignore this. They ignore the real-life law of conservation of energy, which is a very common thing in fiction. We've even seen it in the Monsterverse. Godzilla can tank the Permian impact. And this was King Kong 19100's main argument in the video. Godzilla was able to tank the Permian impact millions of years ago. And then, in Godzilla 2014, the Mutos are able to beat up Godzilla and damage him. I argued that since Godzilla was able to tank the meteor, but wasn't able to tank the Muto's attacks, therefore the Muto would be more powerful, and that's correct. Why? Because of attack potency and destructive capacity. Now his first argument for that is, oh well, we see these monsters hit the ground at full force all the time. Oh, these monsters aren't holding back. They don't care if they destroy the planet because they're fighting to survive. Well, that's a direct contradiction, because if they destroyed the planet or the continent they're on, their lives would definitely be threatened. They don't want to destroy the planet, so they don't. If Godzilla fought the male Muto, and then they're like, alright, we did the Permian impact in Awakening, so shouldn't this destroy the entire continent? Well, that would mess up the plot of the movie, and obviously the writers want to put the story above power consistency, so they don't destroy the city when they fight. Does that mean that Godzilla is somehow automatically weaker? No, this is a common thing in all fictional universes where they just ignore the fact that they can destroy an entire planet or an entire continent because it would interfere with the writer's stories. In order to understand how powerful these characters are, you need to understand the writers behind these stories and how they want to represent them, and understand that they want to put the story before their power consistency. And yes, attack potency does exist in the Monsterverse. There are quite a few examples of this. For one, Kong was confirmed to have a punch that's 1 million tons of force. That's a 1 megaton nuke. That is more powerful than every single nuke that's more powerful than the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bomb. But yet when we see Kong punch Godzilla in the movie, no such explosion happens. Why? Probably because they don't want to blow up everything while Godzilla and Kong are fighting. You, Mr. King Kong 19100, even did a little big boy math yourself and said, oh, well, Kong with math could probably output 1 million tons of force. Well, yeah, but that directly contradicts your attack potency argument, because if Kong could punch with 1 million tons of force, 1 megaton of force, then it would be a gigantic explosion that would level and destroy a good portion of Skull Island if that was true. So are you gonna say Kong is weaker and then those numbers don't exist? Because attack potency doesn't exist to you, apparently? No, these characters just have destructive capacity, and they can control how much physical energy they exert. Like he said, he always said Titans don't have attack potency. And this is directly proven wrong in Godzilla vs. Kong, where Godzilla, we've seen in previous films, Godzilla's atomic breath shooting at the female Muto, and it doesn't even, the female Muto is able to take the force, or Godzilla's able to shoot it at Ghidorah, and Ghidorah doesn't immediately fall apart. So everybody was saying that Godzilla's atomic breath is weak. Then in King of the Monsters, Godzilla was like, shut up, I'm blowing a hole in the entire Earth to the Earth's core with just my atomic breath. The only reason it didn't cause that much damage is because it was hitting monsters that could handle that much force. If Godzilla really wanted to, he could destroy the area around him if he really wanted to. So yeah, him attacking power scaling, very dumb. Every single fiction has power scaling. Dragon Ball, DC, Marvel, even the Marvel movies, the DC movies, anything you could think. Star Wars has power scaling. If your fictional universe has numbers, then it has power scaling. So get that trash out of here. So for the main debunk, in his last video he kept arguing that Kong from Kong Skull Island had good enough feats to be comparable to Godzilla, but Godzilla vs. Kong directly proves that Skull Island characters are nowhere near the level of Godzilla characters, because as we could see, Kong from 1993 struggled with the Skull Devil, or had an extended fight with him, and they were pretty evenly matched. Meanwhile, that same Skull Devil gets one-shotted in 2024 by Mechagodzilla, who was only at 40% power. But then later, when Mechagodzilla fights Godzilla, when Mechagodzilla is fully charged to 100%, Godzilla can match his beam. Meaning that if Godzilla really wanted to, Godzilla could pick up 1973 Kong and split him in half just like that. That right there completely destroys the last video if it wasn't already. Now for his invalid argument section, he also brings up the meteor feat and says he still tries to debunk the meteor feat, which is very, very, very dumb. He says, oh well, it doesn't mean Godzilla was hit directly, and then he says, oh well, Godzilla wasn't near the water, and Godzilla and the meteor directly hit the water. No, it did not. Godzilla was in the specific place that the Permian impact hit the Earth in real life. As you can see right here, the Permian impact in real life landed half in the water, half outside the water. And in the comic, let's look. Oh, what's that? The meteor landed halfway in the water and halfway on land. It's almost like they're portraying Godzilla as being exactly where the Permian impact landed. And we could see in the panels before that Godzilla was near the edge of that water. So Godzilla was pretty much at ground zero when that meteor went down. And he even confessed that, oh, Godzilla was probably near the radius of the meteor, but not directly. Well, that still means even lowballed calculations would mean that Godzilla would have to endure at least small country levels of force. So no, you didn't debunk that, and Godzilla's meteor feat still stands. One small tidbit about Mr. King Kong 9100, he really hates King of the Monsters. He makes a bunch of videos talking about how Godzilla's a bad alpha, King of the Monsters is bad, Ghidorah got nerfed, you know, he just despises that movie. Well, I couldn't be happier because I'm about to make him hate it more. The stratosphere drop in King of the Monsters is his most common, oh well, Godzilla can't survive this or that because he didn't survive falling from the stratosphere. Now, a couple of things about this. One, before he was dropped, Godzilla had a full fight with Ghidorah, which he used a bunch of energy in, and Ghidorah amped himself while he was fighting Godzilla, so Godzilla did have to struggle in the fight with Ghidorah. Also, while Ghidorah was lifting Godzilla up into the air, Godzilla was not only being strangled by Ghidorah on the way up and was knocked out before he even hit the ground, but also Ghidorah was absorbing Godzilla's energy on the way up. So not only was Godzilla fatigued, used a lot of his atomic breath, his energy was being absorbed, as well as he was being actively strangled before he even fell. But this stratosphere drop feat is a lot more impressive than you probably even think, and probably why you keep using it. You don't even realize how impressive it really is. Godzilla being 99,634 tons being dropped from the stratosphere, which is at least 31 miles high. Something that big falling from that high would hit the ground at almost 3 times the speed of sound and would produce an impact of around over 45 billion tons, or 45 gigatons of force. That's island level. That's 3,000 times more powerful than the Castle Bravo nuke. That is the third most powerful impact the Earth has ever experienced. The only thing that beats it is supervolcano explosions and the Permian impact. And that's because supervolcano explosions can be seen from outer space. And the Permian impact was able to eradicate almost all life on the planet. And those are the only 2 explosions that beat this. But then he'll say, oh, but the impact didn't look that destructive. Well, yeah, because Michael Dougherty didn't want to destroy a good portion of the planet at that moment. It wasn't necessary, so therefore he ignored it, and that's how most writers would treat that narrative situation. Does that mean the impact still isn't as powerful? No. That's not how it's treated in other fiction, so we're not going to treat it like that now. If you're doing that, then you're blatantly ignoring the writer's intentions for the character. I know you hate Michael Dougherty, you shit on him, you shit on his film, but that doesn't matter. That does not matter in this argument. The feat is right there. It happened. You're gonna be pissed about it. You know, sucks to be you. He then says things like, oh, well, Godzilla tanking nukes and meteors just means he's nuke or meteor resistant. Well, that doesn't make any sense because meteors and nukes are just blunt force in an explosive form. It's just like punching someone in the face. You hit them in the face with a nuke, it's the same blunt force trauma. Yeah, there's some fire in there because of the kinetic energy, but it's still blunt force with the meteor hitting him in the face or the nuke explosion hitting him in the face. And then to bring up your car example, which is pretty dumb, he said, oh, well, it doesn't make sense for destructive capacity because if somebody gets hit by a car and is fine, but then the car goes and hits a brick wall, does that mean that the person can destroy a brick wall? Well, no, obviously the car wasn't going as fast when you hit the person as it would be when it hit the wall. If the car was going as fast as it could when it was destroying the wall, then it would have completely killed that person. But according to you, if I got hit by a car and then survived, would that mean that I'm car resistant? That's just... Do I even need to say anything else? Alright, now that we're done with that, we're just gonna go straight into the down and dirty feats, because I want to explain just how powerful Godzilla is, because nobody seems to. I just want to prove just how much of a gap there is between Godzilla's most powerful feats and King Kong 9100's presented feats that he showed to me. So, for speed, Kong was able to tag several helicopters from 1973, which most of them could fly at around 200 miles per hour, and Kong was able to tag them, which makes him subsonic. It has also been calculated that in Kong Skull Island, with Kong's size, that Kong would be able to run as fast as 556 miles per hour, or 0.8 times, or Mach 0.8, which would be subsonic plus. Not even the speed of sound, whereas Godzilla in 2014 was stated by the designers and the directors that the size of Godzilla just whipping his tail around would be able to generate, is that Godzilla would be able to move at the speed of sound, or his tail would, which makes Godzilla easily transonic. And Mr. King Kong 9100 said it's just his tail that can move at subsonic speeds. Well, that is directly contradicted in Godzilla vs. Kong, where Godzilla is able to just swat fighter jets out of the air with his hands as well as his atomic breath, which move around at almost Mach 4 or supersonic plus, which makes Godzilla around supersonic plus. And also in Godzilla vs. Kong, Godzilla's atomic breath was able to reach the Earth's core from the surface in around 2 minutes, which would make Godzilla's atomic breath around Mach 84. That's 84 times the speed of sound. And keep in mind, that's when Godzilla's atomic breath is trying to actively drill through the Earth. It's not freely traveling through the air. And even digging through the planet, that's how fast it could go, making Godzilla easily high hypersonic plus. Godzilla was also able to travel from the Pacific Ocean to Hong Kong in 7 minutes, which would make his travel speed around Mach 94 or high hypersonic plus, making Godzilla almost 100 times faster than Kong from Skull Island. Now for power, Mr. King Kong 9100 brings up Godzilla lifting up the boulder, which could weigh anywhere from 415 to 1,204 tons, but I've seen people calculate this rock to be as heavy as 2,422 tons, which would make Kong small town level. King Kong 9100 also brings up Kong breaking the shipwreck chains, which could be around 3,300 tons of force, still small town level. Godzilla, even casually lifting the female Muto, is stronger than any of these feats, making him around 6,000, able to lift 6,000 tons with one arm. Godzilla is also able to casually walk through the Golden Gate Bridge, which is around 887,000 tons. Far stronger than those feats from Kong. And even when King Kong 19100 was able to hypothetically say, oh well, if Kong was 65,000 tons, which there's no confirmed weight for Kong, he then multiplies Kong's strength and says that Kong could produce over 1 million tons with his punch, which pales in comparison to Godzilla, who the first thing we've ever seen him do is tank the Castle Bravo nuke. That's literally the first thing we ever see him do on screen, is tank the Castle Bravo nuke, which is around 15 million tons. Even when you stacked Kong's multipliers for his strength and boosted his weight, your hypothetical Kong strength was still less than 10% of what Godzilla could endure back in the 50s. What does that tell you? Godzilla was also able to survive all of the other atomic bombs that were being tested in Bikini Atoll.
All those nuclear bomb tests in the 50s. Not tests.
They were trying to kill it. Him.
As stated in the film, Godzilla is also able to casually tank nukes to the face without even flinching, and some people have argued that, well, Godzilla absorbs energy from the nukes, so that means that he can't take the force. Well, most of the force would hit Godzilla before the radiation could even be absorbed by him. So yes, Godzilla would have to tank the force as well as, and then after he'd be able to absorb the energy. This is even hinted by Serizawa in the first Godzilla 2014 film, where he doubted that even modern nukes could even kill him. Then there's obviously the Stratosphere feat, which, as I said before, Godzilla, even while weakened and drained, was able to endure 45 billion tons of force, which is island level. Godzilla is also able to casually create tsunamis just by coming out of the shore. And tsunamis are created by earthquakes underground. And these earthquakes, in order for Godzilla to create as destructive of a tsunami as was shown in the 2014 film, it would at least have to be a magnitude 7.5 earthquake in order to create a tsunami that destructive, which would require nearly 300 billion tons of force to create a 7.5 category earthquake. And then also Godzilla's atomic breath being able to drill through the Earth's crust down to the Earth's core. I've seen people calculate that at around 526 billion tons. And by the way, all the calcs for the feats I'm showing are going to be in the description if you guys want to check them out. And then we get to the big feats, alright? Godzilla was able to overpower King Ghidorah, who could create storms around the world that were going to reshape the entire planet. Now, just one of Ghidorah's storms, which was able to cover half of Brazil, which was able to cover half a continent, only one of his storms were able to produce 62 trillion tons. Now, if you're wondering, oh well, why it requires a ton of energy to create a storm that big and destructive, let alone control it and manipulate it and have it freely make cyclones by itself. And keep in mind, this is one of many storms Ghidorah has made throughout the entire planet. This would easily make Ghidorah multi-continental. And if you're saying, oh well, yeah, sure, Ghidorah can create these storms, but it doesn't mean Ghidorah is that powerful when he attacks, well, wouldn't Ghidorah's making these storms just off of him flapping his wings and just existing. Ghidorah would obviously be using more power to fight a Godzilla or use attacks to fight Godzilla than he would be just casually flying. Godzilla in his burning state was also able to disperse all of Ghidorah's storms, which would also make him multi-continental. And then the infamous Permian impact, it's even lowballed. Godzilla would be enduring small country levels of force, but more likely he is enduring multi-continental levels of force. That'll be in the description for how much force the Permian impact can produce, and Godzilla was able to tank all that. And Godzilla can even theoretically be even higher than that, as even in Godzilla Awakening, the Shinomura was stated. The Shinomura would have been capable of feeding on radiation and growing to a size that blocks out the sun in order to match Godzilla. And keep in mind, the Shinomura would have to block out the entire sun in order to match Godzilla. And keep in mind, in real life, solar eclipses happen, and the moon isn't even something the size of the moon isn't able to block out the entire sun completely from the earth. So this could theoretically mean that Godzilla could be moon level. I'm not going to argue that, but there's evidence for it. And it's also been stated in King of the Monsters that Ghidorah is stated capable of destroying the planet. Play the clips.
That could explain how he's creating these massive storms and the effect he's having on the other Titans. It's almost like he's reshaping the planet to his own liking.
Jonah, you don't get it. This changes everything. With Godzilla gone, Monster Zero isn't using the Titans to restore the planet. He is using them to destroy it. This isn't coexistence. This is extinction.
So Godzilla has shown much better feats than Kong ever has. Now moving on, we're going to talk about the fight itself. The fight in Godzilla vs. Kong. Now, if you were sitting there that whole time while I was talking about all of the amazing things Godzilla has done, you might have been saying to yourself, well, vegan, does that even matter? Because wouldn't all those awesome things Godzilla did, if Kong was able to match Godzilla in combat, wouldn't that mean that those same feats apply to Kong? Well, let's go over Kong's performance with Godzilla, alright? Let's go over round 1. This is a clear Godzilla win. I know nobody questions that, but there's a couple things people have brought up about round 1 that I want to talk about. 1, Kong would have died if the humans didn't interfere under the water. Godzilla would have continued to go kill Godzilla if the humans didn't play dead. The only reason Kong lived past round 1 is because of the humans. 2, people say Kong's sedative made him weaker. I'm not sure it would make him weaker, maybe a little slower, but a funny thing about Kong's sedative is that they use that as an excuse to say that that's the reason Kong's punch didn't do much to Godzilla, whereas Godzilla was able to bitch slap Kong onto the floor. But Kong was sedated several days ago before the fight and was acting completely conscious before Godzilla even appeared. But even if you don't want to believe that and say Kong is slightly weakened, Kong was affected by quote-unquote a light dose of sedative.
They use a light touch on the sedative. As our escort, can't have him comatose when we reach Hollow Earth.
It's a light dose, so it shouldn't really affect that much in the fight. And even if you want to say Kong would be weaker by the sedatives, Mothra, before she even hatched, Mothra was stated able to completely resist all the sedatives that Monarch was trying. And you're telling me Kong was weakened by a light sedative?
Sedatives?
No effect. This thing wants to be born.
And keep in mind, Mothra's larval state is weaker than her butterfly state, or her imago state. People don't believe this because they believe Mothra is weaker and she's fragile, but that's how it's always been. Mothra gets more and more powerful when she turns into a butterfly, when she turns imago. And you could say, well, the sedatives in Kong and Godzilla vs. Kong are probably more advanced than in King of the Monsters. You could argue that. But how much would sedatives improve in 5 years? Even though they haven't really improved in the past several years in real life. But so I find it hard to believe that Kong was heavily affected by these sedatives, as people say he is, when someone like King Kong 19100 had a whole section of his video showing that Kong has insane stamina and can recover from having 0 oxygen and then being beaten down by the Skull Devil and then have a full fight with him afterwards, for him to then go and say, oh yeah, a slight sedative made him really weak for Godzilla. You're wanking Kong. You're just blatantly wanking him. Godzilla also would have ended the fight right here. He would have blasted Kong with his atomic breath and pretty much killed him. The only reason, and this is hinted at when Godzilla is being interfered by jets crashing into Godzilla and stagger him, even though jets never really staggered him in the previous movie, but whatever. Plot is on Kong's side in this movie. So those are all the opportunities Godzilla could have ended the fight, but didn't. Now, the most controversial round of all is round 2 in Hong Kong. A lot of people don't even believe this round even happened, as apparently in the novelization, round 2 wasn't even mentioned. Apparently this is all one round, which is how I perceived it. I just kind of assumed round 2 continued when people think round 3 started, but whatever. I'll just say there was a second round so we can give Kong the benefit of the doubt. So Kong manages to knock Godzilla down with his fully charged axe, but Godzilla gets up pretty much almost immediately at the beginning of round 3. Godzilla was also stated to have been worn down after using his atomic breath so much, so it was confirmed by Adam Wingard, the director of the film, that Godzilla's atomic breath does drain him, especially after significant usage. Well, before the Godzilla even fought, before round 2, Godzilla was able to drill to the center of the earth with his atomic breath for like 2 minutes straight, continuing to blast down on the planet. Do you think Godzilla wouldn't be drained at all after that, especially when it's confirmed when Godzilla uses his atomic breath a lot that he gets worn down? So there's evidence saying that Godzilla was quite drained a bit even before the fight started. Godzilla definitely spammed his beam during the fight, and Kong was able to dodge it, which is pretty damn impressive. That thing can go at least Mach 80. So Godzilla would have been worn down during this fight. And people also like to screenshot this part of the fight where it looks like Godzilla has blood coming from his mouth. Personally, I think this is lighting. When Kong's body goes down, you can see that his body is also turning reddish, meaning that there was a bright red light right in front of Godzilla where he was standing, so that could have easily looked like blood. Not to mention that the scenes right before that shot don't show Godzilla with any blood at all, and even in the shot directly after that, Godzilla's showing no blood. So to me, that just looks like lighting, and Godzilla wasn't really shown bleeding in the fight. Even during the close-ups, there was no shot of blood. Godzilla is also easily able to make Kong bleed by biting him underwater, and is able to easily scratch Kong's chest and make him bleed from the mouth. The only time Kong significantly hurt Godzilla was with the axe, which penetrates his thigh because it's a charged up axe that's made of one of Godzilla's ancestors' scales, so logically it would hurt Godzilla because it's his own power. But even Godzilla is smart enough to try to throw it out of the equation, meaning that yes, Godzilla is getting smarter throughout round 2, and that'll be proved in round 3. And then the infamous Kong didn't get one-shotted by the atomic breath, yes, and King Kong 19100 has even stretched this far enough to say that Kong tanked it. And which means Kong didn't get hurt at all by it. He could take that blast all day and never get hurt. That's what tanked means. Sure, Godzilla didn't one-shot him by the atomic breath, but at the same time, Kong was actively moving forward, and Godzilla's atomic breath lightly grazed his back. Godzilla's atomic breath only made contact with Kong for a split second, and then right after that, Kong fell out of the beam. And even for that split second, you can hear Kong's flesh already burning and Kong crying in pain as he's flying away. Does that sound like he could... And then, throughout the rest of the fight, he is making 100% sure that he avoids that blast for the rest of the fight. Does that sound like somebody who can tank the blast and keep fighting all day? No. Kong knew he couldn't take another hit like that. If Godzilla hit Kong with the atomic breath, like I said on that battleship, it would have blasted straight through him, and that's evident from this clip. But yes, Kong was able to knock out Godzilla with a direct hit from his axe. Mr. 19100 has also claimed that, oh, Kong was able to take the same impact as Godzilla, but he got up sooner. Well, that doesn't make any sense because Godzilla was the one that the impact was being directed at. It would make sense for Kong to go up and hit Godzilla when it would hurt Kong just as much as it was hurt Godzilla, because it's been proven that Godzilla is his superior. I think it's very clear that Godzilla is the one taking most of the force from Kong. Most of the force from the axe. And Kong simply got blown back due to Godzilla's atomic breath being interrupted and causing an explosion. Now on to round 3, and now this to me is the most definitive round out of every single one of them. Kong isn't sedated, Kong doesn't have the axe, because it's not charged up anymore. Godzilla doesn't use his atomic breath at all throughout the entire fight. Sure, Kong got hit by the atomic breath, but Godzilla was also the one who took the full force and was briefly knocked out before round 3 began. So they're at around an even playing field, and on top of that, at the beginning of this fight, Godzilla's the one looking for Kong, and Kong has the upper hand on a rooftop, seeing Godzilla, and can plan his attack accordingly. And he uses that to trick Godzilla and get the upper hand immediately. So Kong pretty much has most of the advantage. And despite all that, Godzilla beats Kong to death, but doesn't finish him off. And Kong would have died if the humans didn't restart his heart. Kong couldn't run away fast enough. Kong's stamina didn't allow him to last against Godzilla. As soon as Godzilla went full force, alright, no messing around. As soon as Godzilla got down and dirty, Kong was completely outmatched. This is the one time Godzilla got serious with Kong. And there was numerous times in King Kong 19100's last video where he says that Kong and Godzilla are portrayed as equals. It's stated even after Godzilla beats the hell out of Kong, that if he didn't use as much power against Kong, that Godzilla could have taken out Mechagodzilla as well, or at least have stood a better chance at defeating him by himself. So that means not only did Godzilla beat Kong's ass in less than 5 minutes, which, by the way, in 2014, Godzilla took hours to defeat the Mutos. Godzilla was also so fresh that he was able to keep up with Mechagodzilla at least for a little while, and was even able to clash with his beam. So for those people who say Godzilla needed Kong in order to fight Mechagodzilla, well, if Godzilla was also fully fresh, then he could have taken out Mechagodzilla himself without needing Kong. And then at the end of the film, Godzilla is ready to fight Kong again in order to prove his alpha status. He is willing to fight Kong again, and Kong has the axe right there. But Kong's like, nah, I ain't fighting you. Godzilla's like, yeah, I'm the king, bitch. I'm out of here. The only reason Godzilla leaves is because Kong willingly said, nah, I don't want any more. I don't want any more smoke. And then Godzilla leaves like the Chad he is. So basically, just to conclude this video, because I don't want it being any longer than it is, King Kong 9100 conceded several times. He said that his original video is outdated and that it was trash. So that's one concession, that's one W for you, boy. He also conceded the fact that Godzilla was in the blast radius of the Permian impact, which lowballed would put that feat at small country levels, and Godzilla would feel that force instantaneously even if he's within 300 miles of that impact. That's a second dub for your boy. In conclusion, Mr. King Kong 9100, if you're listening to this, which I know you are, you can stick to your animations. You can keep praising Kong. I don't care. Just quit trashing my boy. Educate yourself next time, please. And one more thing, Mr. King Kong 9100, I want you to admit, I don't care if it's on Instagram or if it's in a video, I don't care if you DM me, I don't care. I want you to admit to me that Godzilla was able to tank the Permian impact and take the full force of it because he is a Chad. I want that exactly admitted to me. I'll be waiting.